Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube and for Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. And we've got over 2,000 audios available for your listening pleasure. This is the 18th of June 1983 edition. And, kind of opening with the new tag team champions. Once again, Youngblood and Steamboat, and that is a pretty big deal at the time. Of course, going back to them eventually squaring off with the Briscoe brothers. Briscoes having completed most of their heel turn at the time. Also, we kind of see a little bit of the, I guess you'd say, runaround with. They do several minutes of information on the heel turn itself, the attack on Jimmy Valiant from weeks ago, the attack on the nature of Jim Nelson weeks ago, and again, Steamboat and Youngblood basically talking about how they will face and are willing to face off against the Briscoes in the future. Briscoes talking about how they should be champions. Then we move to a first in series full match, or first exclusive match of the day, which is Bob Orton Jr. against Bill Howard. Howard, relatively newcomer here. I think he might have had one other match on Mid-Atlantic TV by this point. Orton Jr. coming in, not yet really established as a talent. He'd been here once before earlier in the year for a couple of months, but coming back through for a little more value for the next several months. And Howard takes Orton over. There is a continuation of some basic maneuvers, modified body slam and a almost power slam shoulder breaker type maneuver, and eventually the win for a splash on the off the second rope on the inside for Orton, and he gets a victory there. Roddy Piper talks about having to almost retire, wanting to fight, not being allowed to fight at the level he wants to fight. Then we go to another in-series. By the way, the Piper promo worth checking out for a number of reasons. Piper just really good that way. Funk and Roberts versus Davis and Fleming in a enhancement match. Of course, Funk and Roberts still managing to be at the under the leadership of Paul Jones, and some body slams for Roberts. Not really many challenges for Dory Funk Jr. at the time. Kind of he's here, but he's not really here as a big talent. And double underhook suplex, and then we see Dory Funk Jr. managing, and ultimately Roberts comes back in. Roberts still wearing kind of just baggy pants, for lack of a better term. Kind of goofy there. Roberts slaps his opponent around, gets a modified run there. Roberts also managing to get the victory in quick order. Short clothesline and eventually the DDT, and there is the promise that Paul Jones and his picture contest continues, and Jones is continuing to read what ends up being bogus material that way. Kabuki comes up in the next match here, the great Kabuki versus John Bano. Not exactly a great deal there. Punches, kicks, arm wringers, and the like by Kabuki. Kabuki is announced as your television champion, although very rarely, if ever, do we see him defend that championship. So it's kind of weird that they're plugging a championship that gets no real attention. You'd think it's WWE in that way. Anyway, up and over we go, and ultimately back kick and a win there. We have a promo with Mike Rotundo out, who continues to want to get at the one-man gang. They show the highlights of Rotundo almost slamming the gang, doesn't get anywhere that way. Highlights of a Ric Flair Harley Race match from local area, and Flair gets the figure 4 on Race several minutes into the match. Race says that he Race manages to get the double back suplex. Race winning the championship, I believe, for the 7th time here. And ultimately, Race getting the title back from Flair ahead of Starrcade 83. Of course, Flair for the gold there, and Harley Race basically says he has been the champion for the majority of 10 years. He is unimpressed with Ric Flair. Ric Flair does a babyface promo basically saying that it's been the first time in a long time that they've had a world champion from the Carolinas. He likes being that person, and he is looking forward to regaining that championship from Harley Race. Dick Slater complains about having been suspended several times and wanting to get even with that. Slater then goes into a match to close out the program with Keith Larson. Slater, again, continuing brawling, takes the man over, trying to rub him into the mat, for lack of a better term. And basic maneuvers, Slater drops the elbow and ultimately gets a victory. We got various local area promos. Rufus R. Jones talks about that House of Humperdinck shouldn't be taken seriously. Bugsy McGraw talks about the damage caused by the one-man gang and the damage to his ankle. He's on crutches, and we continue that. Jimmy Valiant also wants to get rid of Humperdinck as well. Humperdinck a major target, and Dick Slater comes in and challenges the authority of anyone who is standing in his way, and we close on that note. We'll be back with more right after this.